it's Tricia Ong from Mintrix Business Advisory. I'm about to be a guest on the Online Prosperity Show, where we talk about all things small business and underground gold mining.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, where we just don't talk business, but we dive into the stories, struggles, and strategies that actually shape the journey of every entrepreneur. And today, I'm thrilled to introduce someone who's been through it all. Tricia, how are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you, Prosper. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. You see, I get to see you every Thursday, but today I get to share you with my audience, and I can't wait for them to discover, the legend behind Mintrix Business Solutions. So thank you so much for gracing us with your presence today.
Thank you. Wow, what an introduction. I was just like, the pleasure of seeing me every week. I was just like, I don't know if that's a good thing at all, but you managed to spin into such a positive light. So thank you so much for such a warm introduction.
Absolutely. Well, Tricia, I've learned a lot from you. I mean, not only are you a business coach, but you're just an okay, all right human to be around. There's some people that you try to connect with and it just doesn't work like that. And yeah, you seemingly have been able to do that with not only me, but everybody else that we meet with in our business network. So it only gets better from that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's in that sense, it's relatability, and it's being able to, not everyone that you come across in life you're going to click with and you're going to gel with, and not everyone's going to be your best friend. But at the same time, from a business point of view, we have to work with everyone, from the people we love to the people that we don't love as much. And along that journey, you have the ups and downs, and it all comes down to what you want to project in your life as well. So that's what I'm all about. It's just having that conversation with people to work out, how can I add value to them? How can they add value to me? And if there's any synergies, and just take it from there.
Absolutely. It's all about people at the end of the day. And for those that are watching right now, you might be wondering, if you guys just know each other, why don't you just go and talk without engaging us? So for those that are meeting Tricia for the very first time, let me just take you from under that digital rock you've been hiding under, because for years, she has been managing in the mining sector, and now she's running a successful business advisory here in Melbourne. And Tricia knows what it's like to be in the trenches, solving real world challenges for small to medium enterprises. And you might be wondering, why Trish, why now, and why should you care? Well, let me tell you a thing or two. She just doesn't offer advice. She's a hands-on strategist who actually crafts custom solutions that businesses need to be sustainable, and in order for them to grow. And as you can see on my hand, no two fingers on the same hand are of the same height. And Tricia has managed, to understand that for every business, it comes with its own challenges, and especially the people that are driving that business. So in this episode, you're going to get her fresh approach into business structure and growth, find out why companies of all sizes look to her for guidance, and also learn a surprising fact that actually makes her approach truly unique. So whether you're a startup founder, a business veteran, or someone just curious about what it takes to grow your business in today's world, I want you to stick around, because you're going to leave with insights that you're not going to be able to find anywhere else. Now, Tricia, I did mention, while I was introducing you, that you started your career in the mining sector. Why would you leave such a stable environment and come into the topsy-turvy of entrepreneurship?
That's a really good question. I think for me, I always had a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit in me. And throughout my business journey, or my professional development journey, there's been certain milestones that I've managed to reach, and each particular milestone has led me to the next to the next phase. So my first step was essentially just finishing university, did a Bachelor of Commerce. And after completing that, it was just like, well, what do we do now? I grew up in Perth, Western Australia, and many people went into the mining industry because it was an industry that essentially just pays more than any other industry. And that was where I first started my career. After about 7-8 years working for the one business, they grew quite rapidly over that 7-year period, having been bought out 3 times. So 3 business acquisitions I went through. And at each stage, I was able to learn so much from, being a small business of 50 people through to being a corporate enterprise that's ASX listed. And following that journey to see, the processes, the procedures, the human resource management, as well as all the corporate governance that goes behind every single step of that journey, ultimately led me to Melbourne, where they expanded into the Melbourne operations that I came across to run in 2017. So my first decade of my career, I was able to, learn a lot about small business, learn about the mining industry, learn about every particular aspect of business, from operations to finance to marketing. And essentially what I do now, there's a lot of similarities in the sense that small business owners, as you know, and hopefully a lot of your listeners relate to as well, is being able to wear all the hats, to be the operations department and the human resource department, and essentially even the marketing department before they start to outsource it. So that's how I came to Melbourne, through working with this one company who expanded here. And the reason why I left the mining industry was in 2020, obviously many changes through to the pandemic. And at the end of the 2020 calendar year, the company I actually worked for decided to close down the Melbourne operations to go back to Western Australia. And I decided to stay in Melbourne after establishing myself here for a number of years and building up my own personal and professional network here in Melbourne. And that's a bit of a summary on my journey. Hopefully that answers the question on why mining and how mining has brought me to small business today.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for taking us on that journey, because it just really gives us, a step by step of how we can follow it through and things of that nature. But, you did mention that people in Perth were sort of going into the mining sector and things of that nature. When we sort of got on the call, I was talking about my 5-year-old little girl and, what we got up to on the weekend. But one thing that I didn't mention to you was a couple of weeks ago was Halloween, and my little girl was insistent on wearing a witch's outfit. And I was just praying and hoping that is not a career choice, for her in the future. So what was it like, for you growing up as a kid? What did you want to be?
Wow, what an excellent question. I wanted to be a forensic scientist. Actually, that's something really random that I actually don't think anyone has asked me in about 3 decades.
Yeah.
So, and that's just from watching a lot of CSI TV shows. I thought that science was something that I wanted to do, but unfortunately, I got a bit squeamish when it came to actually having a look at what that entailed. And I've always been able to build relationships and talk to people. And business was a natural progression, which is why when I decided on career paths, I looked at doing a commerce degree and going into business. And that's sort of how that stemmed. And when I had the opportunity, when I left the mining industry, and obviously in Melbourne, mining is not a very big sector. So I had to pivot into a different industry. And having a look at that, it was to see where all the passion was, and small business owners are very passionate about what they do. There's always a why, there's always a reason behind, why they're working 16 hours a day, why they are passionate about their product or their service that they're doing. And that became really ingrained in me. Especially as a child growing up, I saw both my parents were both in small business as well. Dad was in the automotive industry, mum was a hairdresser, both running their own small little business. and, working really long hours and wanting to have a better future for me and my siblings, as well as for themselves, and just working so hard. So I think coming back to the childhood of what I wanted to be, everyone wants to be like mum and dad, as well as grow up into something that can make a difference. And I feel that I can make a difference in small business owners by helping them with things like daily challenges, time management, cash flow challenges, not having enough work, having too much work, and the list goes on.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for opening up this side of you, because, I mean, if mom and dad were sort of entrepreneurs and everything else, was there a push towards obviously academia, or was there push towards some sort of career that would have been doctor, lawyer, or things of that nature, if they were independent in their own thinking?
Yeah, I mean, coming from a Chinese cultural background, it's always, you dentist, doctor, lawyer, accountant, even. But at the same time, I mean, we've spent a couple of decades in Australia now, and although education is important, it's also important for your children to find their own path. And having a look at my siblings, I have a brother and sister who both grew up with me in Perth, and entrepreneurship is the last thing on their mind because they're just like, my sister's a government employee, and I love her, but government employees are just a different breed. And and my brother works for a large mining company as well, and they're employees, and employees have a certain personality to them as well. And entrepreneurs, I surround myself at work, through business, through my professional networks, with people who have the same vision and have the same passion for small business as me. So I think in life we just need that bit of a balance. But it's the whole nature versus nurture debate, where we grew up in the same household. My sister who's 2 years older than me, looked at my mum and dad and said, they work a lot of hours, so let's go find a government job. Versus me, I was just like, oh, they work a lot of hours. I want to do that too, but make it better. So everyone has their own story, and even with the same circumstances, you choose your own path.
Absolutely. And I can only imagine what Christmas or any other family dinners are like, with such stark differences. But you did raise the fact that you are of Chinese descent. So that means you would have immigrated to Australia, or were you born around here?
Yeah, no, I was born in Singapore actually. Came to Australia when I was 4 years old.
Ah,
With my mum and dad, they migrated to Perth, Western Australia, and yeah, that was in 1994. So
abs-
just 30 years ago that was. And yeah, they decided that Australia would be a great place for us to grow up, and we're really grateful for the opportunities that we're able to have in this country, from really something simple like being able to go to university, being able to drive a car, being able to go on road trips. I look at you know uh, people in Singapore or cousins who there's government stipulations which is good in a way, but at the same time there's a stipulation where you can't own a house by yourself until you're 35 years old.
mm,
And a Hyundai car costs about $100,000, and the life is just really different. And there's a lot of benefits to obviously each country, and every country has its own cons and pros, but at the same time, just being grateful for all the opportunities that being in Australia has given us, and we're really really lucky to be here. Hmm.
Absolutely, I do concur with that. I mean, me being a late arriver, I've had
Hmm.
to catch up with everybody else who's grown up here. But the fact that you migrated to Australia, that means English is not your first language, right?
No, it's not. So I spoke Chinese when I was, from the time I could start speaking until I was about 5 years old. So when I moved to Australia, I couldn't speak a word of English, not a single word. I was a little Chinese kid running around the shopping centre, losing my parents, as you do, back then when it was more acceptable, socially acceptable to walk away from your parents in a supermarket and just going up to people and just, blabbering in Chinese, and people would have no clue what I was saying. And went to primary school, and that's where I learned English. So I find that there's actually a study out there that says something along the lines of uh, where your accent is taken at a later point, like after 5 years old. So I've always been able to speak with a fairly strong Australian accent, which was very evident when I went to America, where everyone's you don't hear your own accent until you go to another country,
Yeah.
and then you can really hear it.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
but I've always been told that I speak with a heavy Australian accent. Yet when I couldn't speak a word of English until I was about 5, 6 years old, when I went to school, and all the kids around me started obviously speaking in English, because mum, grandma, everyone at home was speaking to me in Chinese.
So are you still able to speak Chinese at all, or have you lost it along?
I've lost a lot of it, but I can still speak basic Chinese. What you find is that, as you know, you have a 5-year-old as well. You speak to them like they're 5. So
Right.
instead of, well, the way I speak to my dog, for example, not bad analogy,
Yeah,
edit
yeah,
this out.
that's the same. Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
talking about my children and my dogs. Anyway, so I'm just like, Freddie, go potty. You don't really say that to a human. You don't really say
Mm,
that to an adult. Like, Prosper, would you like to go potty? You say, I'm just going to excuse myself to go to the bathroom.
mm.
But when you talk to children, or when my mum talks to me as a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old, a lot of that lingo is not of a business context. So although I can converse in Chinese, I probably can't walk into a business meeting and start speaking Chinese, because I might accidentally say, "Hey, Prosper, I need to go potty."
And then people will start really questioning, do we have an advisor here or
Oh, that's it. That's it. So,
yeah,
can converse, but probably not to a business context level.
absolutely. Well, we can make do with what you have right now, but it's one of those things. Now, you obviously were hand delivered to Melbourne, had no your business sort of expanded to Melbourne, and you kind of came along and things of that nature. But when you would have then got on to start your own business, Mintrix, that was in 2020.
Yes.
And I would say things were not the easiest at that particular time. Everybody was either socially distancing and coughing in their elbows. What was it like, you getting started at a time when everybody was uncertain about the business landscape in and of itself?
Yeah, so it's an interesting time, obviously, as we've all lived through it. What I found was I had a lot of time on my hands. And because I had a lot of time on my hands by not traveling and not socializing, what I found was I could really devote a lot of time to work and to business, because we're at home all the time. And, the laptop's right there, and we're so connected to the internet. And what I found was there was a lot of people out there who was highly stressed about all the changes that were happening, or the lack of knowledge around change. And those were the people that, would refer me to each other by saying, I found one person, I was able to help them with one issue, and then they had they had a friend with a similar issue, and the referrals were coming quite regularly through that, as well as in business, in any situation, you have winners and losers. And because unfortunately, not everyone can be a winner. You can in your own right, but at the same time, what I found was, while a lot of hospitality, events, tourism industries were suffering, on the flip side, e-commerce took off. There was a massive boom in e-commerce and everything around that, from the employees to freight companies to, international logistics, local Australia Post. Like, it was the busiest time for certain industries. A lot of people had pets during COVID as well, so the price of dogs skyrocketed. Every second household started buying a dog or a cat or whatever pet it was, because they spent so much time at home. as well as people, instead of spending money on holidays, would buy things for their house, and the renovation projects and never got touched. And so I pivoted towards working with many businesses who were in a bit of an economic boom. And what I really was able to help them with was to ensure that, after the dust settled, after life started getting back to normal, what would these industries look like? Working from home was a massive push, and yet 4 years later, now there's a big push for people to go back into the city, and to life continues and goes on. So I worked a lot with small business owners who had to deal with a very short-term increase in revenue and sales, but then couldn't take on too much inventory because it would have been high risk as well. So it was just to help them manage that risk and to help them come up with a long-term strategy, rather than there's a fire today, we've got to put it out. Tomorrow, we've got a new fire. So it was, for an e-commerce business during that time, I'm too busy right now because 1 million orders has just come in. So now I'm a lack of staff to get those orders out. That's today's problem. Tomorrow's problem is I'm going to run out of stock on a particular item. And the problem after that is, now I've run out of stock. What about my packaging? So it's to help them with the back end processes, making sure there's right foundations in place so that you can make the right decisions in business. And one step keeps leading to the next step, because after that, now the next pillar is inventory management. What do we do with the idle stock? How do we ensure that if we're going to have a Christmas promotion, that you're not going to end up with heaps of 2021 Christmas gear when, in 2022 it's not going to be relevant anymore, or perhaps it has an expiry date, or perhaps that there's a change of packaging, branding, marketing. So yeah, there was a lot of changes that were happening during this time.
Absolutely. And the one thing about it all is, from the way you're explaining it, this very makes it individualistic. No same business would have the same problems or issues or suppliers or supply chains or things of that nature. Now, you then went on and created your services to be very customized to each sort of client's needs. What was it like having to develop such a hands-on approach with your clients? Because wherever you would go, somebody would have a totally different backhand or supply or issue or problem, and it makes it harder for a business like yours to then scale based on the uniformity of the clients that you're dealing with.
Yeah, so there's huge variety in the work that I do. I work with clients from e-commerce through to professional service, through to trade-based services, a mix of products as well as service businesses. It's a whole mixed bag. But what that does is that diversifies my client mix to then not only a bit of risk management as well. During COVID, where hospitality really struggled, if I had only clients in hospitality, that would be high risk as well. So it helps me balance that, but at the same time keeps things really interesting, so you never get bored in a role like this, because everything's fresh, new, different, because there's so much variety. And what I find is, although there are differences, there are similarities too. And the similarities I'm talking about is cash flow. You've heard so many small businesses say cash flow is so hard. Cash flow is, the bane of their existence, because there's always constant cash flow issues. Yet it could be, a manufacturing client telling me that, or it could be a service-based business telling me that. And the solutions on how you overcome that, there's a set process that I follow, which is cash flow is, to explain in very brief layman terms, is cash coming in versus cash going out. So when you have cash flow challenges, what you need to do is you need the cash going out to be slow and you need the cash coming in to be faster. So now that we know that, we need to now break it down further into profitability. So if there is profitability in the business and there is cash flow challenges, well, what that means is that the cash is going out too quickly. So then we have a look at strategies to overcome that. For a trades-based business, do you have accounts in place with your major suppliers for consider credit terms of some sort of nature? If it's money coming in too slowly, it's because are you giving everyone 30-day payment terms or 30 days in a month? Or are you not, as a trade, again, are you not asking for deposits when you have to outlay heaps of material for a major project? So those are some of the simple strategies. We go into more complex and deeper strategies depending on what the client's requirements are. But yeah, we just have a look at the one problem, working out what is the real crux of the issue, and then how can we overcome that together. But like you said, no two clients are the same, no two businesses are the same, and there's a whole heap of gray area as well as you deal with people, because sometimes it's like, yes, that's what it should be like, but this guy, he's been my client for 30 years, and because of that, he gets special treatment, and that's where I get to come in and be like, no.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there is a lot of that too.
Yeah, because with time as a business owner, you start obviously having favorites, or you start having emotional attachments to certain people, which are not obviously creating a good business case. If your money is short just because Sally has always been in business with you and she was there for you during COVID, and you need to pay your suppliers today and Sally hasn't paid you, definitely you need to follow that up, and that now takes somebody like yourself to step in and actually draw the line when it comes to things like that. Now, Tricia, I've just noticed something. You might have taken a long route to being a forensic scientist, but you're now a forensic business person, because if you really look at it, all right, if a forensic scientist comes to a scene of crime and starts looking at, was there forced entry, where did the blood splatter go at, and things of that nature, and you start dusting the whole thing for prints. You go in, you look at a business, footprint. Where are they? Who's supplying into it? Is there any forced entry? That's the cash flow right there. And dusting for prints. Who's responsible for certain activities that are supposed to be happening within the business? Have I got a good assessment?
Yeah, wow. I've no one's ever told me that analogy before, but no one's ever asked me what I wanted to be when I was a child. So. Wow, what an excellent analogy, because essentially when you look at it, that's what you do. You come in, you work out what's going well in the business, you work out what's not going well in the business, and then you have a look at where the challenges are, how we can implement steps to overcome those challenges, and at the end of the day, it's to make those implementations with that client to help them solve the case.
Absolutely. So there you go. I think we have got our new Mintrix CSI investigator here. You
There you go.
come in.
2025, I'm going to put a magnifying glass in my logo.
Absolutely. Now, for those that are watching and might sort of want to have an understanding, of the sort of work that you do, could you maybe share an example of maybe a client transformation that actually made a big impression on yourself?
Yeah, I'll talk about one client who's in the pet food industry. This is a client that I started working with in 2021. And in that first year of business, it's actually a case study on my website. And in that first 12 months that I worked with that client, we increased that business 228%. And it was during a COVID time. Pet food industry, obviously, high growth industry at that point in time as well. And some of the things that I was able to help that business owner with was not only cash flow challenges, having a look at, how to move redundant stock, how to ensure that we weren't running out of stock, especially during sale periods, or ensuring that there was consistency in the product. So making sure that there was data analytics across the board there, helping them with human resource challenges. So things such as a team was growing, as new processes and procedures needed to be added in, help clients as well to find things like professional services that they may need. So to give you an example, this particular client hadn't reviewed their insurances in a while as well. So I brought in an insurance advisor to help in that situation, work directly with their accountant on making sure that, as a team grows, you've got to be putting away your PAYG and GST obligations on a regular basis. Otherwise, BAS bills become quite nasty if you're not prepared for them and you don't plan for them. So there's a whole heap of different things that we do, especially in a high growth industry where there's a lot of change and there's a lot of rapid change. But again, like you said, it's also tailored to what the client actually requires. But that would be one of the highlights of my career as a business advisor, which is to work with a client, see their dreams become a reality, from being e-commerce only to bring manufacturing in-house, to growing a team from 2 to 10 staff, and from essentially helping that business owner scale their business, and to this day remains profitable.
Absolutely. And congratulations on such success. I mean, like you're saying, it was during the pandemic, but there was a growth, spurt with this business. So it only just showcases, having somebody like yourself, would help a business be profitable and also enjoyable, because we do this to enjoy the actual, benefits of running a business. But I think with the things that you bring to the table, it's obviously good on paper. It's good to then say, yeah, we've gone through that. But in order for a business to actually then get the result, they need to stick with this. This needs to be done over and over. They can't go back to say, have favorites with credits and things like that. How do you then keep businesses motivated to stick with these long-term strategies, especially maybe when they're not seeing that instant result today, but and they know it's going to happen. But as humans, we're always just wanting things around the corner, to showcase for ourselves.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. So where there is quite a long-term goal, for example, a goal where one of my clients wants to, buy their own commercial factory through self-managed super fund, that is a very long-term goal for someone possibly in their mid-20s. So it's just to help them to understand what the end looks like. Is that part of their vision, their why? And building them a road to show them, okay, at the age of 28, this is what you need. At the age of 30, this is what you need. At the age of 32, this is what you need. Hey, if you can get what you need before that and, cut this plan in half, by all means, go and do that. So I help the client work out what their goal is, build a bit of a roadmap, ensure there is ongoing accountability and consistency, making sure it's achievable as well. And should they wish to, put their head down and work hard and achieve that goal faster, by all means, go ahead and do that. But what I can do is I can help a small business owner have a look from the outside in. A lot of times the business owner will already tell me what they need to do, will already know that their favorite Mary is not paying the bills yet, is their number one customer. But by putting the hard evidence in front of them with my magnifying glass inspector hat on, it's to be able to show them that, well, this is what it should be, and this is what you're doing. You make the decision on if you actually want to make that change. So it's not up to me to tell you, hey, you need to enforce payment terms and Mary. It's my role to highlight that this is what we've agreed is a good process, and this is what you're actually doing. If you want to continue doing it, that's fine too. But I'm telling you that, we have agreed together that this here is the right process. And sometimes people, all they need is just to be shown what that process is, and then they can implement it. So let's use payment terms as an example. It's it's let's say a trade-based business, they will know that they should be asking for a deposit. They will know that they shouldn't give finished goods until final payment's in the bank. They know that they shouldn't discount work because they've got a long relationship with this guy who, that small business owners know. They know what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. All I do is provide a platform to be able to structure that and say, okay, well, on day one, if someone is overdue, they receive a overdue notice. On day 3, still unpaid, another one. Day 7, perhaps they receive a phone call. So whatever your process, if you feel that day 1 and day 3 and day 7 is too soon, work out what it is. Should be week 1, week 3, and week 7. Because every small business is different. So I just facilitate the structure and help you with the implementation and show you how easy it is to take those steps forward. And then we work out which ones are the priorities that we work on first.
Absolutely. And obviously, from what you're saying, you're part CSI investigator and also part psychologist, because once you show somebody certain things about themselves, obviously, you're going to have to create space for them to come to terms with the fact that the reason their business is not growing is because of them.
Yeah, well, that's it. And it's interesting that you bring up psychology, because that was another career path I considered. Just merging all my career paths together. The thing with psychology is there is a lot of psychology when it comes to human interaction, and a lot of business is all about the human interaction, dealing with multiple stakeholders, from your employees, your customers, your referral partners, your networks, your suppliers, customers. Like, there's people everywhere. And because of that, there's a lot of grey. There's a lot of personality and communication that goes to many different stakeholders. And the point I'm trying to make here is in small business, communication is key. It's important in any relationship, but at the same time, getting that right, fundamentally right in your business or your small business or your organization is the platform where everything is able to grow from. And in terms of psychology, is being able to articulate, what you need in your business to your customers, your suppliers, your employees. It's being able to, at times be vulnerable and say, this is what the business needs, or this is what I need, or this is what I can identify you need, and how do we work together as a team to achieve all of these mutual goals? Because a lot of times I see a lot of businesses or a lot of teams and a lot of employees are all working towards this common goal, yet working in silos and not working collectively to help each other to get there.
But obviously, coming from, you were saying, one of your siblings is an employee and you were in that sort of realm before, but there's had to be a big change, first of all, in your own mindset, in your own personal growth, and things that come along with you having to then have enough of that energy to pass on to yet another business so that they too can grow and be sustainable. Now, what sort of personal growth have you had to maybe experience in you running your own business, and does it influence the way you then guide your clients, or how is that sort of coming together?
So yeah, for me, I feel that the journey in life, as well as the journey in business, it's all about different steps along the way. And sometimes we make a side step, and sometimes we take a forward step, and sometimes we take a back step. But at each step, there's learnings along the way, regardless of what we do. So I'm a firm believer that I need to continuously learn to be able to, go on this journey of life and business. And because of that, I do things like push myself out of my comfort zone, like do podcasts, and I speak. Like you mentioned, we meet at a networking event every Thursday, and what that does is it forces me to public speak. I've got a major speech coming up in February as well at the Melbourne Convention Centre, where I've got an hour-long speech to deliver. And all of these things I feel are helping me to grow as an individual. So it's not only in business skills that I need to continuously improve and grow at, but it's in my personal development, in interpersonal skills as well, from things like being a better leader. I've got a team of 3 now, to being to being a better leader, to being a better public speaker, to being a better individual and a team member as well, to being a better support for my clients, and identifying some clients who need a weekly contact to other clients who only need a monthly contact, and those interpersonal skills that come with it. So life is a continuous learning journey, and I find it very important to keep developing skills in every area. So what I find that I do myself, which is really good, is if there's a particular area that I feel I need extra education in, I'll just go and seek out the education. So I'm not sure if your listeners and yourself, you've heard of Toastmasters. It's a professional speaking group that I go to once a month. I used to live in Hawthorn, Melbourne, and anyway, it's about 45 minutes from where I live now in Melbourne's northern suburbs. But I still drive there once a month, 45 minutes one way, just to attend this group so I can learn and grow.
Absolutely. Now, I heard this term from you, range anxiety. So when you go to Toastmasters, you won't.
Well, the good thing is, in FYI, in Hawthorn, there's a Tesla supercharger. So if you get range anxiety for long distance driving an electric vehicle, it's always good to know where your closest charging stations
Absolutely.
are.
Now, Tricia, I mean, obviously, you also did mention you can spot when somebody needs like a, weekly check-in, fortnightly or monthly check-in, which I think it would be also good for you to sort of let us know what that means and how you connect with people. And if they're keen to start this journey with you, how they can maybe get started or where they would go to on the internet without having to face range anxiety.
That's it. So, I work with businesses in any and all industries, because I find that the business owners, you probably heard this before, the business owner is always an expert in what they do. What I am is an expert when it comes to small business and helping you with the strategies to get you to the next step. So if you're interested in that, I do offer a complimentary discovery session, which you can find on my website by just reaching out, or Prosper can drop a link in the show notes, which is www.mintrix.com.au. And through that discovery session, we'll have a chat about what's working in business, what's not working in business, and come up with actionable steps that you can either take to implement yourself, or you can work with me to implement that together. And then from there, some of my clients prefer to meet weekly. So if you've got a project that you're working on, or there's a lot of fires in the business that you're trying to overcome in a short amount of time, or there's a deadline to be able to reach, such as trying to get some stuff done before Christmas, or to sort out a particular issue before the end of financial year, or whatever the deadline is. And so some of my clients like to meet weekly for that weekly accountability, and other clients I meet them once a month. So the monthly clients I find are probably a lot more time poor and don't have the time to catch up once a week for that accountability. They can keep themselves accountable. We come up with a monthly list of all the things that needs to happen. And every now and then I'll just touch base, but more or less that's a lot more of a self-guided implementation strategy. So it just depends on what the business owner is looking to achieve, by when, what their budgets are, and if I can add value. Because at the end of the day, there's no point seeing me once a week or once a month if you don't feel that I'm adding value to your business. And that's my core belief, that every single client, after they do a session with me, they need to be able to see the value that I'm adding to their business and their life.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just spending 45 minutes with you right now, we're already seeing the value of what you bring into the table. So I'll definitely put those links in the show notes below so that people can fly in and fly out whenever they feel like, especially, having to work with you. Talking of flying in and flying out in the mining sector, what minerals were you guys responsible for?
It was gold. I worked for a underground mining gold contracting business.
Absolutely. So
So it's,
basically,
yeah, that's hard rock mining, but primarily gold.
absolutely. So now you're just helping small to medium businesses mine the gold within their business, in order for them to literally have, the profit and sustainability that actually works for them. But if we're looking back, you did work with this company, when, there was just 50 of you up until, there was three mergers and acquisitions, and now they're listed on the sort of ASX and things of that nature. That is a lot of experience, especially when it comes to that side of things, because very few people get to experience a business being sold, maybe once in their lifetime, but you had three of those. So, when people are preparing a business to be sold, they want to make sure the systems are okay, the finances are okay, and things of that nature. And I think that's a crucial thing that you bring to the table, because not a lot of people have that kind of experience and can say that about their past.
Yeah, I'll elaborate a bit on that if I can. So, especially in regards to getting a business ready to sell. Number one is just to arm yourself with as much information as you know. Make sure that you've got the right people in your corner. Your accountant is crucial here. Making sure that you understand what the buyer is looking for. It's I guess with Prosper in the marketing industry, it all comes down to understanding who your target customer is. And if you're trying to sell your business to someone and you've in your mind thinks it should be avatar A, but really they're avatar B, you're really speaking the wrong language to them. Mm-hmm. And so it all comes down to communication, I believe, because once you're able to identify what that business owner or the prospective business owner is looking for, then you can tailor your pitch as well as or your preparations in a certain way. So what a tangible example looks like is, let's say a small business owner, he's a trade-based business, and they're looking to sell their business to, say, a third party, yet they think that it's really important to have a website and to have that website at 100%. However, if the person that they're selling to was hypothetically married to Prosper from Live Long Digital, possibly that is not a concern to them because they know someone who can provide that solution. So that's sort of my ad hoc analogy there for you, which is essentially you need to be able to have someone to have in mind who you're selling to, but make sure that you fully understand who this individual is or collective individuals are, and what they are interested in, what is of value to the buyer. And if you're not providing something of value to the buyer, then the buyer's not going to be interested, or you're going to be thinking that websites are really important when they think that they can fix that straight away after they buy the business. So it all comes down to being able to understand your target market, which is all about what you do, isn't it, Prosper?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I quite like that a great deal. I mean, just talking about target markets, recently we just had an accountant come through. And when we were asking them all these questions and things of that nature, so who do you want us to speak to, what language and things of that nature, and they really specified they wanted to help businesses with their BAS and GST and things of that nature. And they were like, okay, that's pretty good. And when we went into their CRM, guess who we discovered was 80% of their clients. it was teachers who did their tax return with them. So you can imagine the disconnect that would have happened in
Yeah.
that particular scenario, just
Mm.
given the fact that they're speaking a whole different language. And as you have established with us, employees speak a different language to people that are in business and things of that nature. Now, speaking of that, I really, really, really thank you for the time that we've spent on this call today. And but it would be remiss for me to, not ask. First of all, when you were working in the mines, did you get to wear high vis gear, or because I've never seen photos?
I did, but I think I don't know. Uh, I have to dig them out. I do have photos somewhere. I've been underground before as well. We did a bit
Yeah.
of a site tour. I mostly worked in the office, but I have been in high vis underground before. But the thing is, they actually don't allow you to have phones underground. Not only is there obviously no reception underground, and it's super hot underground as well. It's yeah, you're not allowed to have your phone on you either. It's one of the rules.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, security, you're dealing with gold, somebody might come in at night and try and hurt themselves trying to mine that gold. But, one other thing, I mean, that was something in your past, but you also did introduce us to this 5-year-old who came into Australia, didn't know a lick of English, and now you're this person who's helping the Australian economy and things of that nature. What a journey. Thank you so much for that. If you would say maybe go back to this 5-year-old and maybe she's crying, she's lost her parents in the shopping mall, like you say to her, and you're the adult that just comes across and tries to speak to her and find out what's going on. What sort of words of advice would you give her, knowing who you are becoming and what turned out, from your life? So older Tricia talking to younger Tricia, what would you say to that little girl?
Wow, what a deep question. A lot of things come to mind. It's kind of like, these days you just pull out your phone and find a translation app, but back then you really couldn't do that. You would always say, don't lose your mum at the shops because and listen to your mum. But from an entrepreneurial point of view, I think what I would say is, yeah, learn to communicate with your audience, learn to communicate with your target market, and learn to communicate with your friends and family.
Absolutely, because communication is key. That's how you get by in the world and things of that nature. Now that you've taken us into your world, Tricia, and people that are watching here are now excited, they might just go onto your website and things of that nature. Even though you've hinted that you've got a speech coming up next year and things like that, but personally, what's next for you? What can we expect from Tricia?
Yeah, so we're coming to the end of 2024 now. For my goals for the next year is to continuously grow and improve on myself as an individual as well as my team. Clients, the lifeblood of my business, clients come and go, clients are all on their own self-learning journey as well. And I do love working with all the clients that I work with, and it's just to continuously help them in their journey, which I'm doing already. But in terms of what I would love to do in terms of next steps is I've currently got a team of 3. I want to make sure that I'm communicating well with them so that I can identify their strengths and get them to add more value to my business, as well as, working out what the future holds for the growth of Mintrix and improving more small businesses in Australia.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today. I mean, I tried to dig deep, investigate, go underground, and I didn't have a hard head to actually sustain, the depths of where we could have gone. But I really appreciate you for holding the space and just sharing with us, the insights that I think every entrepreneur really needs to hear right now. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Prosper. And I'll be sure to find a picture of me in a hard hat and orange high vis somewhere as well.
I can't wait to see that. Now, for those that are watching, if today's episode resonated with you, make sure, I think you give it another listen, because I think there's a few golden nuggets that were actually sprinkled in between there that could actually help you be, do, and have a business that's profitable and enjoyable. And if you have maybe gotten enough of what you need from this show today, why don't you share it with somebody who's probably just getting started in business? They might think they've got everything covered, but there's still a thing or two that they could learn from Tricia. And I would actually encourage you to go check out her website, and I'll be putting all the show links in the bottom below, so that you can actually go get started with your journey with Tricia. As she has said, she's got a discovery call. Why don't you go find, if you're actually sitting on an acre of gold, that she'll be able to mine for you. But like I said, she has to show that she's that much of a miner or a CSI investigator by showing us proof of her having been in the mine. So I can't wait for that photo to be delivered to my desk, so I can so I can share it with the rest of you. But I want you to remember one thing: the journey to growth doesn't have to be a lonely one. Take the steps, seek guidance, and let your business thrive. Until next time, bye for now.